Hi everyone. Today I'll be interviewing Sophie, who is a startup founding engineer, and she also goes to the same school as me, the University of British Columbia, and she studies computer science and is in the Masters of Management program. So I'm excited to introduce you to her. Do you want to tell them a little bit about yourself, Sophie?
Yeah, sure. I'd love to. First of all, thank you so much for having me here. This is super exciting. And yeah, as you already said, my name's Sophie. I also go to UBC, and I'm going to be going into my third year now. I study computer science and management, and yeah, I'm excited for this kind of video.
Cool. So what made you want to go into computer science and the Masters of Management program? Were you interested in already in high school, or was it something that you kind of just decided when you were already in college? Or
Right. So the programming or the computer science part of it came pretty early, actually, around grade 9 when we were like messing around with MIT App Inventor in class. And I
Okay.
kind of realized I could use those things to build things that other people outside in the world could use.
Mhm.
And that really motivated me to actually learn and look into actual programming.
Mhm.
And then the business part came a little bit later, when I realized that if you know how to code and you have an idea about business, it's a lot easier to start your own things, kind of this entrepreneurial stuff. And that really motivated me to actually do the Master of Management. And that decision actually came when I was applying for university.
That's
So
cool.
quite a lot later.
Yeah. So is there a specific area in computer science and business that you're really interested in? Like you're already dabbling in entrepreneurship. Is that sort of what you want to do later on, or anything in particular that really excites you?
Right, yeah. When it comes to computer science, I've been just really dabbling around. I mean, I guess I'm
Yeah.
mainly a mobile developer, but I'm looking more into web development and also did a bit of machine learning here and there. But entrepreneurship is really something that does excite me, because it really allows you to kind of take your ideas and turn them into your own business and really run your own thing rather than having to necessarily work for someone else.
Mhm.
And especially like in the startup world, it's great to just have a team that's really passionate about the product, which is something that sadly lacks in a lot of bigger companies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. And so you said that you did business and computer science. So where does the entrepreneurship kind of come in? Do you say that you use both sides pretty much, or how did you find yourself using the things that you learned in your computer science classes and the Masters in Management program?
Right. So I feel that the entrepreneurship side that really links to the business side a little bit more, because in those classes for me, we really learn a lot about management and how to take an idea, turn it into a product, and then market that product and like the whole design process and everything.
Mhm.
And then when it comes to computer science, it was more the hands-on, how do I actually turn that idea into the actual like software or product. So the business really helps with the theory behind it. How do I come up with the idea? What people do I need to turn the idea into a reality? And then how do I sell that idea? And the
Yeah.
computer science helps with actually doing like the hands-on building off that idea, if that makes
Yeah,
sense.
that's so true. I think that goes for everything. Like even for when I was working at larger companies during my internships, it was always like even if you in a technical role, you always have to think about the business aspects because you're not just like building it for no reason. It's building it for either like a client or like a customer. So like it's
Yeah.
always for a business reason as well. So it's good that like we're doing degrees in both business and computer science, so we think about both of them when we're creating things.
Yeah, no, definitely. And one thing I actually want to say here is that it's so important, at least that's what I think, to think of programming as a means to an end, not the end goal, because you want to use it as a way to achieve that product that you're building for a client and not just program something for the sake of doing it. So that should really just be the tools that you're using.
Yeah, for sure. So I want to talk a little bit about the startup that you're working on then. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about Mindset and what it kind of does, how the idea came to be, things like that?
Yeah, sure. So I can't tell too much, but basically what it is it's a startup in the health sector, which there's a group of students all across the world. We've got people in the UK, me in Canada, people in the US, Switzerland. And it's basically a dementia screening app, and it's the first AI dementia screening app for iOS devices. And basically, we created a bunch of tests that users can go through, and we then take the data that we generate through those tests and actually feed them into a machine learning model. And that model, obviously, the more data it gets, it'll then be able to categorize someone as either probably having dementia or probably not having dementia. And currently what we're working on is actually the beta release. So that is super exciting. We're planning on getting that out really soon. Yeah.
Cool. And what are some of your main responsibilities then as the founding iOS engineer? Is it mainly working on the app side, or do you also have to help lead the other engineers on the team? So like, what are some of your responsibilities?
Right. So with a startup, it always changes. You don't really have that clear set path or those like clear tasks that you have to do. So you really do have to be quite flexible. But I basically started off working on the iOS front end stuff. And then we decided to outsource a lot of the actual developments to a third-party company called Orange Jellyfish based in the UK. And they had like 3 engineers or something that helped me create the iOS front end stuff. And now they're slowly taking that over a little bit more as we're approaching the beta release. I'm moving more towards actually organizing the beta release, organizing our beta testers, reaching out to them, making it easy for them to give us feedback. So I've kind of been going through that transition now. But I feel like that's great, honestly, because especially for me, because I am still pretty new to the industry and everything, it really allowed me to gain a lot of experience in both the development and programming side, but also the business side with the beta testing and everything.
That's cool. So what would you say is the most rewarding part of working on the startup? Do you enjoy like the fast paced or like just getting to try different things? What is really cool for you?
Well, I mean, there's a few bragging rights, I guess. It just sounds cool to say. But apart from that, again, because I'm pretty new to the industry and everything, just the hands-on experience of really being thrown in the deep end. I mean, it's painful in the beginning, and you really go through quite a long time of just, what am I doing? How do I do this? But really learning to kind of help yourself and not always being able to ask others for help, which I think is something, if you're in a more kind of regular internship and you have those mentors, that's a lot more common. But really having to like grind through it and learn how to read documentation and all of that stuff definitely develops your skills that you'll need later on. And also just like improving the actual iOS programming and being kind of exposed to this whole like fast-paced business world, I guess. And also just having that feeling of creating an app that actually tackles dementia, which is a pretty big problem, especially in the UK, and knowing that once it's released, it's actually going to make a difference.
Yeah. So what is some of the most challenging parts of working on the startup? Is it like, were you guys starting completely from scratch when you joined the team, or were there already progress when you joined them?
There had been a previous version when I joined them, but that was pretty much scratched, and we did start pretty much from zero. But one of the biggest challenges actually is, apart from just like the coding and bugs and all of that common stuff, is the fact that we are working with dementia patients. So it's not like a normal user where you can kind of predict their actions. So for example, for one of the tests, we were using a lot of timers, and with dementia patients, there's a big variety in how long they would take to do that test, especially since we didn't know from the get-go if they if they are likely to have dementia or not. So just that unpredictability of their actions made it quite hard to design a UI or UX that we could really rely on and that was 100% functional. So we kind of needed to really tailor it to that user group of people that might have dementia. And it was just another factor that we had to think about to make it as easy as possible for them to use.
Yeah. So would you be able to tell us a little bit about where the startup is going? You said that it's in the beta stage right now. What does that mean for the people who don't know what that is? And what's like the next steps, I guess?
Yeah, totally. So we aren't 100% sure where this is going to go either. Like right now, we're really just focused on the beta release. And the beta release essentially is that right now we have kind of an MVP, or a minimum viable product. And that's kind of the smallest set of features that you want in your product in order to really make it testable and be able to present it to users and gain valuable feedback. So that's where we are now. We've implemented 3 tests out of the collection that we're planning on adding in. And right now we're actually looking for beta testers. So if any of you guys are actually interested, I made a video about my startup journey as well, and there's a link to the website, so you can sign up to become a beta tester. That would be awesome. But with our beta testers, we're then going to basically have them run through the app and share their experience and give us some feedback, just so that we can really just improve those last few bugs and make it as easy as possible to use. And then once we've kind of made those improvements, we're planning on throwing it out there.
Cool. I guess for my last question then, are there any other last tips or advice that you can give to other college students or somebody who wants to dabble in entrepreneurship or joining a startup, or even just launching something of their own, anything that you can think of?
Yeah, I mean, it's always daunting and kind of hard knowing where to start, especially. But I feel like one big advice I would have is, if you're already in computer science and you're looking for internships, I would highly recommend actually starting off with a startup or something. I know that the Googles and Microsofts and all of that might be tempting, but I really do feel that if you start with, at a smaller startup, you gain a lot more hands-on kind of skills, because you really need to, again, solve your own problems and work on a whole variety of different things. And then if you're not already in computer science, but you want to dabble in programming or coding, I would highly recommend just, because there's this thing called like tutorial hell, where you just watch tutorial after tutorial after tutorial, but you never really build your own projects. But I would recommend just thinking of something that you want to build. Let's say you want to build a website for something, and then starting to build that. And whenever you're stuck, then you go and look up a tutorial for that specific thing that you need help with. And that's a great way to actually, first of all, get out of tutorial hell, because you're already building something. And then also, second of all, it'll help you to actually apply those skills that you learn in a tutorial to your own projects, which is often something that's kind of hard, because you see how that person is doing it for their stuff, but then you don't really know how to apply it in your own use case. And that definitely helps with that too.
Yeah, that's really good advice. Yeah, and I also agree with the part where you said that you should do an internship in that area, because I feel like even if you just intern for a startup, you'll meet mentors, and like the people around the area, they're way more knowledgeable about starting up something of their own rather than in a large corporation, because your mentor and your boss probably won't even know like the behind the scenes of everything going on, because it's just so big, like nobody really knows. So I think like that's a really good idea, because in a small team environment, you actually get to see how it's being run, and you could probably start something of your own, just having that learning experience. And then, yeah, like what you said, the tutorial thing, that's so true. Like a lot of people, they just like read a lot of stuff and they watch a lot of YouTube tutorials, but they never actually do the thing or practice. And that's what gets them like stuck.
Yeah, I've definitely been there.
Yeah. So where can everyone find you if they want to learn more about your startup or just like you in general? You also have a YouTube channel, right?
Yeah, I do. So yeah, my YouTube channel, there's some more advice on entrepreneurship and finance and tech stuff on there. Go check it out. I'd love to see you there. Then Instagram is probably one of the best places. It's at Sophie Berger. Twitter as well. I use those two mostly.
Sounds good. I'll link it in the description below. Well, thank you for joining us. This was really insightful.